give a little hint about coming on Thursday to hear about my latest
Oh, that
detective
would be
work?
great. That would be great. And
Yeah.
you can even hold it up. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
Yes.
that's perfect. Yeah, I love a good mystery. In fact, you're cool with Maureen, so we may bring her in. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she'd be either a guest for you or a guest for me in just one of these Sunday things. I'm
We're
making a
live.
little list, and we're live. Yay!
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. It's so good to see all of you here live once again on this very special Easter Sunday, for all who celebrate spring, for everybody north of the equator, or fall if you're south of the equator. I don't know. I have to say, I grew up in the tropics where we don't really have seasons, and now that I live in North America, it never gets old. I just love spring, and who doesn't? My very special guest today is none other than our quintessential Projectkin, Kathy's Corner, the cornerstone of Projectkin itself, joining us here from a apparently almost snowy Calgary. Welcome, Kathy.
We call that spring here, Barbara, when it's almost. We'll get to have a few weeks of maybe snow, like, and it's not going to stay. It's not going to, but it'll fall a few flakes, and it's just not nice out today. So, but it is
Yikes.
spring. This is what we call spring in Calgary. So you just never know what the weather's going to be like. And it was warm last week. It'll be warm next week. So we just tolerate it. But you do not
Well,
plant before the May long weekend. So, so good
whoa,
to
whoa, whoa,
see
back
everyone
up.
joining.
The May long weekend?
Yeah, well, you have Memorial Day in May. We have a long weekend in May that's called Victoria Day, which is the Queen's
That's
birthday. It
right.
was the origins of it. But now it's become the trendy thing to refer to it as May long.
I see. I see. And
And so it's the week,
it's still officially Victoria's birthday.
yes, because it was Victoria Day, so I don't think it's changed with Charles. So, but who
Never changed with
knows?
Elizabeth. Why should it change with Charles?
Yeah, it's very confusing. But so we do not put our gardens, you don't put plants outside because we're almost guaranteed to get a big snowstorm that weekend. So,
Yeah, I remember explaining to our customers in the Middle East how Americans were nuts about Memorial Day because it's like the beginning of summer. That's what it is. It's the
yeah.
beginning of summer. And then Labor Day is the end of summer. It's just you got to have those bounding holidays. In fact, that's a great question for everybody. Welcome, New Zealand. Lovely to see you.
Yes.
Also in
Good morning,
Have I been pronouncing it wrong all along? I've been saying Calgary. It's not Calgary. Say it again. Oh yeah.
Calgary.
Oh,
Well, it
you
depends
said.
on where you're from. Some people say Calgary, some people
Ah,
say Calgary.
wait a sec. So Calgary is where? I've heard you say it that way.
Yeah, well, because I'm not born here, so I got the outsider accent for Calgary.
And
But
the outsider accent is from where, for example? Your
anywhere,
Calgary.
3 hours
Oh,
north in
Edmonton.
Edmonton. So it's
Well,
either that or Calgary.
yeah, well, we love local. I mean, I think that's to me one of the sweet joys of what we're doing here is we share the language, and here we are from up north in Scotland and out Aberdeen, and Larkham has joined us, and Jane out in New Zealand has joined us, and of course from Victoria in Australia is Jennifer Jones. See, I try to keep up with where you all are coming in from.
And Declan,
Lind
where are you from?
Go ahead and type it because
That's
we can
somebody
see you
new.
there now. Welcome, Declan. It's great to see you. And Dr. Mary Marshall, as I recall, you're coming in from Washington, D.C. or somewhere near there. It's, what I guess I'm getting at is we all share a language, and I'm too not daring enough yet to try a multilingual effort, but someday maybe. And yet we are all touching different points of the planet and bring a perspective about different parts of the world, which I think is very healthy, even as I judiciously avoid talking about politics. At least I try very hard. And I think we need a safe space.
Yes.
um, so speaking of which, this week Well, for these sessions, I like to focus a little bit on what's ahead for the week. I try to do that for Sundays as a whole, looking ahead to the calendar. And now for Project Kin, as I sort of pace myself week to week with events and activities, I like to look ahead in these sessions and bring a special guest. So that's why I'm so happy to have you, Kathy, because in fact, this is a Kathy's Corner week. So tell us a little bit about what's coming ahead.
Well, we've been doing all the talking about exploring your mystery photos, and at the very end of last month, the idea of timelines came up, but it was literally at the very end of our session, and so I thought, well, let's talk about all various types of timelines in this week coming up, which is useful not only for mystery photos, but also when you're trying to organize your own photos. So we're going to look at a different. I've been doing a little looking around for different types of timelines. Barbara did a great session last week on her Lafayette timeline. And that's one neat kind of timeline, but there are all kinds of them. There's a lot in genealogy, and I'm talking more about a timeline of events rather than a family tree. Of course, family trees are very helpful when you're organizing photos to try and figure out who belongs to who, but more in the sense of timelines of what kind of timelines could you make with various events or what happens. I talked a bit about a timeline, and it's become, as I work through my own family photos, more important that and I don't know about everywhere in the whole world, but here school starts in September and it ends in June. And I know it's in the States, it's a little earlier and later, but
East
so a
depends.
school year overlaps 2 years. A school year does not go in 1 year. It overlaps
Oh,
two.
calendar.
So when you're looking at, so I know where I am, school photos are taken in the fall. So if I'm putting school photos in a year, they're going to go in to say 2020, and then in the spring is when we do baseball and everything else. So baseball pictures are actually taken in 2021, and so that can help having that information. And just even when you're sorting out the school photos and trying to, because if you get a pile, like I've got all my little snapshots, that's a big thing here in Canada. You always get your school picture taken, and even sometimes it's hard for me to figure out what grade I was in. So one of the timelines I use is a timeline that shows what grade I was in and the 2 years that like grade one overlapped 1966, 67. And that way, when you start getting other clues, you're going, well, how does this fit? So that's just some of the things like that we're going to look at as different ways we can make up different information on a timeline that will help us figure out how to organize our photos, or when we've got mystery photos, that a timeline can be very helpful in figuring out when did this event occur, or we talked about fashion and things. So we're going to have a little surprise, a surprise, not won't be a surprise now, but a visit. Anne Larkham has a fashion timeline she's going to show us that she
Ooh.
uses. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to go further and deeper. I was just telling Barbara before we started, I was working on my pictures yesterday, as I need to do, and I'm looking for more. I'm back in really old stuff to digitize, not the really antique stuff, but I've got, well, I guess it is from 1969. 1969, we took my grandmother back to England for her first time since she immigrated. So she hadn't been home in 40 years. So my mother, her sister, my father, and my uncle, and one of my cousins, all of us took grandma to England. So, and we traveled all over. We went, as my 16-year-old cousin put it at the time, oh, great. We visited all the living relatives, and now we're in the graveyards looking at the dead ones. As only a 16-year-old could say. So we have all these scrapbooks of all the places we visited. We rented a car and we went all over. We were in Sherwood Forest and all sorts of places, and where my grandparents were from, and also where my uncle's family were also from there. In fact, their last name is a name of a town in England, Osbaldeston, and spell that one out in a hurry. So I'm looking through the scrapbook of my mother's because it was done in the old paper, not even the nice black scrapbook, but the old, I don't know, like almost newsprinty, like, except it's
Yeah.
beige.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was only 9, and so I didn't know about photo safety and archiving yet. And my mom put the photos in there with white glue. And that's not photo safe at all. And so it's wrecked the scrapbook. So I was looking between hers and mine. I was actually looking to see if by any chance in this box were negatives that I could just send away and get the prints all redone. Didn't find any negatives, but I was flipping through the pages to see how many were damaged and how many, just sort of how much work I'm going to have to get copies from. I mean, we had the old, and that year they had there were pictures, and you got a square that's about probably a 3 by 3, 2.5 by 2.5, and then you got a little one. It's about an inch and a half by an inch and a half.
Oh,
They were perforated, and then there was an advertisement on top of the little picture. So it came back in a square, or a rectangle, but it was two copies of the photo. So I got all the little ones to put in my scrapbook. So now I've got to figure out
oh,
how to fix that. But I digress. So that's one of my projects that I was looking at yesterday. But as I'm flipping through my mom's book, out falls this cabinet card.
oh, down a little bit. Oh,
Yes, so
wow.
this falls out, 3 kids in it. I have never seen the picture before. I've looked at different times. I pulled out some pages out of her scrapbook one point when I was first talking about photo safety, telling people don't put white glue in your albums because look what happens. It eats through the photos and glues them together. And this has never appeared. So it's either a sign that it suddenly appeared in this album or something, but looking at the picture now, I have a mystery to solve. And so I'm looking at the ages and everything. So we're going to talk about that on Thursday as well, on what I have managed to, and how I'm trying to figure out who these kids are in this photo by using the information that I have. So it's,
Kathy, every single time we chat, and we do chat quite a bit, plus we have our sessions once a month. You just inspire me. You inspire me to think about the photos that I have and whatever my little techie thing is of the day, how I might apply that to that challenge again. So an invite to everybody listening. I really am now. I'm getting really good, if I do say so myself, at cranking out these timelines. And I'll take any list of dates or something else to I can't imagine now going after the boxes and boxes and boxes of old photos without a timeline. It's like a ruler. It's like trying
yeah.
to trying to sew without a measuring tape.
Yeah.
It's how you know where things fall. And why does that matter? Because, yeah, the order in which time happens does matter. Anybody ever
Mhm.
watch science fiction?
Exactly. No, and it
The
is really,
timeline
actually, I
don't
like
change
the
it.
analysis of a ruler too, or the
Yeah.
analogy rather of a ruler being similar to what a timeline can do for you. As you say, you wouldn't do anything that requires measurements without a tool, and that's what I think timelines are. And I found our friend Cindy's list has
Yeah.
some great references on there. So I'm digging up a few examples to show you, and I'm going to show one that I've modified that I've used with clients and that I'm going to use for my own family too as I gather information together. And I've been using with cousins and extended family, but cousins that are still a lot like my generation of cousins of things like, because they sent school pictures to my mom, and I'm sort of like, okay, well,
Mhm.
what year is this? And then and school pictures are really good because if you get them all in the right order, that
Mhm.
gives you 12 years of knowing what somebody looked like for the most
Right.
part
Right.
when they were a
Right. And
kid. So
other fashion hints or preferences and pigtails and braces and that kind of
yeah.
stuff as well. I was thinking about this in the context of our earlier conversation and went over to I use weare.xyz as my archive for
Mhm.
my family stories and my family tree. I keep mine private, and one of the things that's nifty there is it automatically takes what it knows, which you've already told it about when parents were born and children were born and siblings were born and all that sort of stuff. So when you look at any individual, it automatically creates that timeline for you of who was born when, in what years, and you immediately see them in sequence. Which is a very useful. And I stopped to say, well, wait a minute, what other kind of timeline do I need? Well, actually, there is.
Mhm. And that's a good
And
one. And
yeah,
that's
and
what's going to help me with this picture,
yeah.
because my guess is that my mom didn't just buy this in a store and throw it, like, it's not just some, because that's one thing I've been buying cabinet cards because I think they're cool and carte de visite, but they're specially marked in an envelope that says, these aren't our family.
I
Don't be
know.
trying to figure out who these people are because these are, or unless you want a good, if you want to spend a day in a rabbit hole, you can figure it out. But
Really
so
important tip.
very important tip. Yeah, if you collect that stuff, do not mix it with your family photos. But for this picture, I'm going to have to use some timelines because obviously, and I was when my brief chat with my cousin who's currently visiting Europe, and I said I doubt that why would my mom have it if it was from his dad's family, like the other family that was with us, and definitely not my father because they weren't even from England. So it's not anything to do with him. We didn't see any of his relatives. So it has to be on my mom's side of the family. And so now, and so I'm sort of going on a couple things. It's like, okay, go back and look at her album, which is another tip. Look at her album because everything other than the damage, everything she wrote the date out for everything and where we were. And so which family were we visiting?
Yeah.
When would be likely, and granted, because it fell out, I have no idea what page it was on, but who are the living family who may have had this picture to give her when we were
Yeah.
over there? And then
Yeah.
using, much like you were saying, I need to look at a timeline and figure out which three siblings of the two girls and a boy could possibly fit the ages of these little kids.
Yeah. And a lot of times, as we've talked about before, there are technology dates for when different kinds of photos
Yes.
might have been possible. This cabinet cards was actually a relatively long period of time.
Yeah.
But for many of us who are looking at our own pictures as kids or as our parents' pictures, there was so much technology development in photography then that there's actually quite a bit of difference between as you've talked about the distorted color from the 70s or the brownie photos or
Yeah.
Kodachrome. Yeah, I have some of the in that come in those little Kodachrome pieces, and I think many of us here are have black and white photos
Yeah.
as children. And didn't get color photos until later. Not that color wasn't around, but it was still pretty hard to get and expensive and so on.
And expensive.
um
Yeah.
Expensive. So yeah, I mean, that part is, ooh, okay,
So I'm
it's
going to
a
look it up
very
now. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about some other things in the photo that I'm also trying to use to figure out, give me more clues about who this might be, because they are sitting in a chair as
mm,
well. And so we've got some other photos where people are in chairs too. So I'm going to have a look
ah,
at
whose photos, whose chairs?
the chairs. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
follow the chairs, look at the background, follow the chairs,
yeah.
exactly.
And it does have a photographer mark on it because I just found it yesterday. I scanned it with my phone, but that didn't help. So I've got to throw it into the good scanner and see if I can't get a little information. It does look only like a name and it does, you could read photographer, you can't read the first word. And otherwise there's no writing on it. There's nothing else on it. So
Ah,
it's not going to, no easy clues, but also if I can get to be able to read that faded photographer's,
mark.
name, then I
Yeah.
might be able to track down what town in England they were from, and that'll give more clues as to who these might
Yeah.
be.
So I am now hooked on this whole timeline thing. And because I can share a timeline as a Google Sheet, that's all there is to it. And then from there, you can create your own personal version with all of the interaction and so on. And I've already shown you how you can do that. Um, I'm gonna create a generic timeline of maybe historical events or other kinds of things, and I can keep updating it, and anybody can download the latest one anytime they
Oh,
want,
great!
right? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't that be a good idea? And so all of you out there in chat land now or in chat land in comments later, send me ideas. We have Kathy's Corner this week, and next week, or rather, yeah, a week from today, the week ahead of week today. um I don't have any events, so I'm going to be like itching with crazy ideas, and you don't want to leave me alone like this. There's all kinds of trouble I can get into. Do we have any questions from all of you out there? Feel free to chat it up. You've got Kathy Stone here at your service, and with all
And
of her
if you're
brilliance.
joining us, please bring, if you've got a timeline you use, please bring it. And if you're not comfortable showing it, we'll show it for you. So,
Or
because
drop a
we'd love to,
link. We
or drop a link. Yeah.
Yeah, we are, because again, I think that if a photo is capturing a moment, and the interesting thing to understand a moment in the context of family history is when did that moment happen?
Yes. Yep.
And hence you quickly get, and as you were describing it, the other thing that was coming to mind for me was how much uh, the arc of your family photos over time, that arc of your family photos tells a memoir all by itself, even if there are no words
Yeah.
involved. And if you were to go through every single year of your very own life, pick a picture for every single year and put them into a timeline. Now go through that year and pick one for every single month, and every single
Mhm.
month go through and pick you've got a whole story right there.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal to think about, and it's of course hard to place the date, but
Mhm.
as you get a tighter, narrower focus on what it was. And for kids born today, my brother was just telling me about my nephew and niece who couldn't join or niece and her husband who couldn't join the family call for Easter today. That they've been taking a picture of their son every single day. So there's the photo a day. And it's created a little collection for the grandparents.
Mhm.
And like, why hadn't we seen pictures? I'm not on that list. Okay, I want to get on that
Get
list.
me on that list.
Put me on that list. And that's it's a crazy idea. Of course you would do that for the grandparents. Such a
Yeah.
simple idea. I don't, don't have yet. So that hadn't occurred to me, but it's an obviously brilliant idea. And what are you going to do with those photos? How are you going to be telling that story? How is
Hmm.
that all come together? And no, you don't have to do it on the spot. It's okay. Stories take time to develop. But as I like to say, there's stories are told in so many forms. Sometimes you got to
And
scratch the
with all
surface.
the tools we have at hand now, the ability to, as you say, like when you're young and with kids and you have little kids, you're busy. You're not
You're
really having
busy.
a lot of time to be writing a ton of stories down. But with all the different tools we have now, you can lay out the basis to do that. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Because
there's
the tech
lots
is
of things that
doing
can help
all that lift for you.
that for you.
As
Yeah.
long as you're good about your hygiene, essentially, you're
Yeah.
keeping that data protected and backed up and archived and all of those good things.
Yeah.
You can get there from here. And why, Kathy's Corner, that's their entire archive of Kathy's Corner is all there for you at projectkin.org/ guess what? Kathy's Corner, Kathy's hyphen corner, because we try to keep it simple. It just it speaks to the heart of where all the storytelling is going and what we've always tried to be doing since the beginning.
Yes. And that's what we're still talking about is how can we use timelines now to tell stories? And
How can we use
I
photos to tell
really,
stories? Yeah.
again, inspired by your session on Thursday with the Lafayette timeline and connecting it to historical events, because I think that has
Yeah.
a lot of potential to figure out um, the stories that we don't know why. Like for some odd reason, we never thought to ask my grandparents what possessed them to come to the middle of the prairie of Canada in 1929 with two little kids from England. And I would love
Yeah.
to know. Like the only thing we know is Grandpa always wanted to be a farmer. That's a little story. It's not a heck of a like what did my grandmother think about this? Like she had all her family still in England, and 40 years for her to get to see him when we took her over. But by figuring out what else is going on around historically around those times may give clues. Is it going to give it a definitive answer? No. Those, we're never going to know for sure, but it may help us find clues to what might have been other motivating factors that happened
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I'm always just astonished at stories from all of you, our friends out there talking about your family history in places like Ireland and Scotland and England,
Mhm.
where your family has lived in the same house for 8 generations. I think it was that Janet Barry was talking about from the Society for One Place Studies in our One Place Studies two-part series that she did. It just I'm blown away by that concept. I tend to think about it in terms of pick one of probably many migrations your family made,
Mhm.
and I can probably think of 4 off the top of my head that my own immediate family and then ancestors made. I'm just thinking about one side actually, made oh, the other side. Okay, we're up to about 6 now. Why did they move? Migrate.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not just talking about changing houses. I'm talking about
yeah.
migrations. Why did they
Mhm.
move and where did they go? Where did they come from? Where did they go and why did they move? It's just, it's fascinating and it's so central to who we become and who we help our children become, what we help them to expect. And well, I'm staying out of politics. So but it is a foundational and important issue no matter how you feel about it, in history around the world right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's makes it all the more important for everyone to really think about, in terms of their own families and their own histories. um, it's
And
mind
preserving
boggling.
that, I think that's become
Yeah,
evident in the last little while, how important the preservation is.
yeah.
That
So
that it may be even more, we used to look at it as an individual basis. It's important for me
mhm.
to preserve my family's
Yeah,
history, but
yeah,
that just for us. But
yeah.
now I think it's becoming more and more important, and I think that some of the work Dr. Mary Marshall is doing, that
Yes.
that is critically important now, that the work you have been doing, Mary, is preserved because it's okay. We're not going to get into politics, but let's just say I think it's really important now from a historical perspective too, not just the individual family, that we continue on with this work to tell stories and preserve them and the history.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
that's my
just reach
soapbox moment. I'll get off my soapbox now.
I was reaching over to take a screenshot because so many of you on this list that I can see from here, have been posting incredible stories into Substack that tell stories of your own families through times of incredible change, growth, movement. We're talking about you, Mary, and the stories that you have written and the ways in which you are aware of the historical importance of the people around you growing up in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community. And you've taken the time to archive that with extraordinary care. Um, we never know what the significance is of the particular moment in time that we happen to be writing about. I think Anne Frank probably had some idea of what she was doing was important, but as a kid, did she really know? Each of these things can potentially be very, very important at a national level, but certainly to your descendants, and perhaps even the work you do to collect and preserve the stories of your ancestors can be very important to a longer arc of history that you may never be aware of. I mean, it's big stuff for a Sunday
Yeah,
afternoon.
that's another good tip too, Mary, is
Yeah,
looking at the letters and postcards
yeah.
left behind, because that those definitely tell stories.
You know, I'm reminded, Kathy, of that postcard I sent you a while back. Do you
Yes.
remember? It was a charming postcard that my niece found in a thrift shop in Portland, and told the story of a young woman, probably at the beginning of the 20th century, sent as a postcard with a pencil writing on the back with the most precious family tale that
Mhm.
captured in what 5 sentences or something,
Yep.
captured her life history, including the recent death of a child, and then
Yeah.
concludes with, "So how are you?"
Yeah, so how are you doing today? I should find
Ah,
that, Barbara, and post it in our
yeah,
community somewhere so everyone can have a look at
I
that.
must I
And I
must have
don't
a
mean
copy of it
find it as
somewhere.
that I've lost it, but it's on my desk somewhere.
No, no, that's okay. I'm sure I have a do you think I sent it to you without scanning it first? Come on
Yeah,
now.
probably not. Yeah.
Well, I do try to keep these short, and they are always sweet, especially when you come to visit. I want to thank you all on a busy, family-oriented day as it is, with so much love, and you mean a great deal to us, and I think to the whole community that we're bringing. You had to say, wait, that's
Yeah.
Birdman. That's not right.
Yeah. So I'll just go
There
thank
we
you.
go. So much love, and yes, indeed, special holiday for this Easter
Like
week.
I do bunny ears easier than
Oh
anything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
So
I think it's just, well, yeah, whatever. I think I'll leave that to Birdman. Again, thank you all.
thank you
Enjoy the
so much,
day.
everyone, and we hope to see you on Thursday.
That's right. Thursday, be there, be square. You have to register to get the Zoom link, but you do that at projectkin.org events. Bye bye now.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.